A lot of people are looking for the magic pill, the silver bullet that's going to solve all their ills. My whole philosophy is about the individual looking in the mirror, taking stock, looking internally and saying, what can I do for myself?
So what are the 5 pillars or the 5 strategy of an individual then?
So responsibility, vision, purpose, the 5 things an individual needs to work on to become an independent entity. The fact of the matter is, with technology, it's fantastic, but you've got to put it aside if you want to build relationships. You do not build relationships through screens. Screens facilitate, but the real relationships come from being face to face with people. And it's the great difference between managing and leading. Leaders are about new directions. Everybody wants to become a manager. Well, you're just managing what you got. The real leader's going out there and finding something new to create.
You talk about $10 tasks and $1,000 tasks and such. What strategy would you advise or do you use to differentiate between which you should focus on the most? Well, Neil, thank you so much for coming back on working on it. I really appreciate it.
Absolute
And it's an
pleasure.
honour to have you back on. So you was actually, I think, going on the stats, one of the most favourite guests we had on. So from episode 36. So 36, not too bad.
That's brilliant.
Yes. So the reason I wanted to get you back on is because, as I've said many times, you're the most intelligent guy I know. You've been around the world probably 7 times and written so many great books. And I just wanted to understand or get your thoughts on what you think is the general state of the world right now, in particular the UK. Let's start there.
Wow. Talk about dropping me in the deep end. Oddly enough, since we've last met, I've been pulling together some stuff that pretty much sums up my philosophy on life, business, the UK, the universe, really. And what I sense is it's ascending cycles of responsibility. So hold that thought.
Yeah.
Start out with the individual. The individual turns around and says, actually, I want to do something with myself. Let's build something. Let's build a company. Let's build a business. So go up a level because now they've got people working for them and they've got responsibility. So the level of responsibility has gone up. And then that business succeeds and suddenly they get the opportunity to scale. And it goes up another level because now you've got multiple people, maybe thousands of people working for you. And then what happens is, if you think about us, human beings, we're social animals and we like to group together and we like to categorize things. And so you go to the individual, to the small group, to the large group, and what's a bunch of large groups is a nation, isn't it? And then a bunch of nations is the planet. So what it is as you go up, you just get ascending cycles of responsibility because there's more people reliant, dependent, looking to you to lead it. And I thought, well, actually, I've got 5 ascending cycles there. And of course, my second book, The Freedom Tree, talks about cycles of life. And so all these threads have been coming together in the last 6 months. When it comes to the nation, I thought, well, I talked to business people and I asked them a bunch of questions around the levers that make that business work. And there are 17 contextual reference points that make a business work. And I suddenly thought, well, how many levers are there for a nation? So I went away and did some research and some deep thinking on it. And I pulled out 25 levers that make a nation work. An individual's got 5. A business has got 17. A nation's got 25. And I thought, well, that's interesting. What if I was to do a diagnostic that gave people the opportunity to say, this is what I think about the nation? So to answer your question, I've developed something called the People's Poll. And the People's Poll enables people to go online, fill in a questionnaire, and tell themselves what they think about the government. Does it have vision? Does it have purpose? Does it have an investment strategy? Do the leaders take responsibility? Running through these contextual reference points. And The findings that are coming in are showing quite graphically that when somebody runs a business, they've generally got a vision, they've got a purpose, they're taking responsibility, they know where to look for investment. But when it comes to the nation, there's a huge disconnect between what people think about the leadership of the nation and what people think about the leadership of the business. And it's coming through loud and clear. And I mean, I'm letting the poll run for it's called the People's Poll 2026. At the end of the year, we'll publish a report, but I'm already getting some indications about the state of the pay. I could sit down right now with the cabinet and read their tea leaves to them. Fundamentally, no vision, no purpose, not getting people engaged, no investment strategy. And if you were the chairman of that business, you'd sack the board. I mean, it's that black and white, Brad. You would sack the board. So what do I think about the state of the UK? Well, I've created the poll, so I cannot have opinions on this because I'm the custodian of the poll. But I can speak to some of the findings and say there's a wake-up call. Wake-up call needed.
So what are the 5 pillars or the 5 strategy of an individual then?
Well, if I was coaching you, I'd ask you the question for you to come up, what's the crux issue? Now, being an entrepreneur and somebody that's built a business and has over 30, 40 people working for them and generating revenues, you know what the crux issue is. It's about individual responsibility. That's the crux issue. If somebody doesn't express responsibility, if somebody does not accept that they need to take responsibility, they will always be dependent. They will always stay in that dependent space. Once they say, okay, I'm going to do something with myself, I'm going to take responsibility, I'm going to make something of myself, they will then start to develop a vision for themselves. They'll get in touch in why they're doing it, why it's important to them. They will then invest in the skill sets necessary, and then they will go out and find the relationships that are going to help them. So responsibility, vision, purpose, skill sets, and relationships are the 5 things an individual needs to work on to become an independent entity.
Yeah, I mean, I think that certainly the responsibility part, the old bed and all and above and below the line, that kind of fits nicely into that graphic, doesn't it? I think a lot of that anyway. And I think certainly ownership, accountability, responsibility, you take all of those and I don't think you can go far wrong.
Yeah. I mean, in the book, there's a story of...
What, this book?
Yeah, that book there. What's what I call the big book. And it's a summation of everything. If you want to know what I know, what's up in here, it's all in that book. But in there's a story. A friend of mine had a young daughter. She had a degree in fashion, but she was struggling. So she asked me if I would give her some help. So I had a conversation with her. Her name was Carla. And in the conservatory out the back of the house, there were these 3 big square tiles. Well, the floor was squared, squared tiles. And what I did, I painted in her mind's eye that one of them was red, one of them was blue, one of them was green. And I stood her on the red one. I said, Carla, the blue one is where things happen. That's when you're an independent person. Right now, you are being dependent because you're coming up with excuses and blame, blah, blah, blah. I said, it's impossible to move from the red square to the blue square until you do one thing. She said, what's that? I said, well, no, you need to tell me what it is. There's no point in me giving it to you. You're in a dependent space. You want to be independent. You need to tell me what you need to do to move to that space. I had her standing on that square in the conservatory 25 minutes.
Waiting for her to come up
with
the
answer. And she did. And the mother in the kitchen went, hallelujah.
Yeah.
But the fact was, once she got it and acknowledged that she needed to take responsibility for herself, everything else started flowing.
Mm.
Within 6 months, she had a job in the city, and she's now the chief operations officer of a big brokerage company.
Wow. I wonder if she holds you responsible for that.
I think she would thank me on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
salary she's on.
Yeah.
So when people get it, bang, they move. The
Mm.
problem is that red square, or in the book, it's the circle. It's got two bits. There are those that want to move forward and those that have given up.
Mm.
And that's the curse of dependency. And somehow we have to break the dependence cycle to get people moving forward and taking responsibility. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of people, I mean, I've been in arguments with people. It's not that easy.
Mhm. Yeah.
I said, that's because you're immersed in a culture of dependency. Therefore, you want everything given to you. Fact of the matter is, until you take the responsibility, nothing's going to happen. And that's my mantra. And I will not budge from that. That is my total belief that the moment you take responsibility, well, then things will happen. Until you do, bang, you're on a hide into nothing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It really is. Nothing gets given to you in a
Yeah.
sense, and
But when
got
you
to go
have
and
a
chase it.
culture that's dependent, and I mean, we could get political here, couldn't we?
Mm. Yeah.
But when we have a culture that practically worships dependency, actually encourages dependency, because dependency, if you got a bunch of people that are dependent on you, you got control. Yeah.
Some would say is a
Yeah.
negative.
So it's a control, it's a control mechanism.
Mm.
And all systems do not like people exerting their autonomy. And,
Yeah,
yeah, the long and the short of it.
that's right.
But the fact of the matter is, the more independent people you have that are all asserting their autonomy, the more things thrive, the more things happen. And that's where the creation happens.
Do you think, and question one, we've already gone off script, but do you think that Dubai is thriving because of that? I know I only use Dubai because of it's quite a hot topic, well, more so for the war recently, but up until that point, it was because of entrepreneurship, encouragement of independency, and that sort of thing. Do you think that's why? Because people have taken that bold move to say, do you know what? I've heard something's going on over there. I wouldn't mind being a part of it. I wouldn't mind a piece of that pie. I'm going to make that move and go make something of myself.
That's probably, see, what happens is when you move from dependent into independent, what you do then is you start hunting around
Mm.
for other people of like mind, because you don't want the dependence in the system. You want to work with other independent people, so collectively you can build something bigger. So what happens? It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're an independent person making their own way. You want to be surrounded by independent people that've also got the same mindset. To buy is probably a catalyst. It's probably an attractor for that kind of mindset. And then to a certain extent, there's an ecosystem around that that's there to support them. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more independent people you throw together,
Mm.
the more opportunities are going to throw up. So that seems to me to be I wouldn't say it was Dubai per se. I think it's more of a self-selection criteria.
Yeah, because I know with the Dubai, obviously there's a bit of a hype around it, and people that probably go along with the hype think, oh, that's a bit of me, that is. And then they go there, realize just how hard it is. And then you hear story, not all the stories are successful ones, and some do come back, but it's almost like I think that's probably why, because people want that, and they probably don't appreciate the hard work and energy that it takes to get that, and
Mm.
the determination and the grit to keep going. And I think Dubai as a nation, as let's say a leadership team, certainly from the outside in, from the outside looking in, you would think that their leadership team there certainly has a vision. It's written everywhere you go.
There is definitely more. I mean, if you were to do the people's poll on Dubai, you'd probably have more vision and mission and purpose involved. Um, but some of the other ones, like democracy and freedom of speech, would probably score
Yes,
a lot lower.
yeah.
So it's horses for courses. I mean, if you did China, it would score through the roof on
Mm.
making things happen and being entrepreneurial and investing. But when it comes to some of the other categories that make a nation tick, like democracy and free speech, free education, healthcare, a lot of the other countries will then start to fall down. So it's about the balance between those different ones.
Yeah, definitely.
My dream for the People's Poll is eventually somebody to around, so, well, let's do this in the States, let's do this in Dubai, But right now,
Oh, okay.
I'm just concentrating on the UK.
Yeah.
It's really to gauge the UK.
Mm.
Um,
That's a good tool. Definitely a good tool.
yes.
So I know that you coach people, and you were talking about different characteristics and mindsets and so on. What do you think, or do you have to change how you coach people today than perhaps what you were 5 years ago, given what's going on? Do you have to take a bit of a different approach or a different strategy?
Um, well, that's interesting. Basically, I won't. I won't change.
Okay.
I won't change my tact. I've always been of the mind. I mean, when I talk to people, I say, "Hey, look, I am who I am. It's Marmite. You're going to like me. You're not going to like
Mm,
me. And I'm not going to walk on eggshells around people's sensibilities. I'm going to say it the way it is. And if you don't like that, well, then go find another coach."
mm,
So I find that if I have to deal with people that need me to be politically correct, for instance, the whole litany of preferred pronouns and being politically correct, they're not going to be for me.
no.
I like working with entrepreneurial, go-getting people that want to make things happen. Um, I've got something what I call the noisy nonsense. So what happens in societies is when the centre's strong, when the centre has integrity, when the centre knows what it's about, when there are values in the centre, things move forward. What happens is you've got what I call the noisy fringes, where people start wittering away at things and they start to erode. Politically, the left and the right, for instance. And what it is if you start paying attention to the noise at the edges, it disperses the focus on the centre. So I can't remember who said it. I, I, I think it was Boris Johnson, actually. He said, everybody's giving a lot of attention to Nigel Farage. Just ignore him. That's a very political statement.
Yeah.
But he's one of those noisies on the fringes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you get what happens is I've got a thing which I call excitation. If you got something that bothers you
Mm.
and you give it energy, it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah, that's right. Isn't there that saying about the two wolves? You've got two wolves inside of you. One's wants to use
Oh,
its power.
it's the positive and the negative, isn't it?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and then you
Which
ask
one?
some
Which
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 one
which one are
survives.
you feeding?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which one survives was the one that you feed the most.
Yeah.
And it kind of, where does your energy go, and where do you want it to go? And it's down to you,
But it
your
comes
choice.
back to the vision and the purpose, and are you focused on where you're going?
Mm.
When you're focused, the noise dissipates because you're focused on where you're going.
Yeah, that's very
But the
true.
moment you stop and you let all those noises, I
Yeah.
mean, what you don't, the tail's wagging the dog. You're going to be on a hide into nothing.
Yeah, that's very true. It's almost like the you've mentioned about the core. So we're talking about probably business, but I think it's also the same. Like for the home, like in families. And there was Jim Rohn, wasn't it? He said, as long as the mum and dad are okay, the kids will be okay. No matter, they may go off rail for 6 months or 12 months or whatever it is, but as long as you've got the mum and dad are good, they'll always have that stable
Mm,
point that they can come back to and reset. As long as them two are okay, or a good home, let's say a good solid foundation, then they'll come out okay.
yeah.
And I must say, I kept reminding myself that as my teenage boys were going through that period. I was like, okay, but we've got to stay good. We've got to stay good.
Yeah.
And then it came good,
Yeah. I mean,
So,
I can remember growing up and, you knew as a kid immediately when there was trouble between your mum and your dad. You know, small bungalow doesn't take much to when they're screaming and stuff.
yeah, 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 exactly. That's it.
And obviously it was happier when they weren't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. So the younger, let's say the younger generation, uh, and let's say 30 and below, you mentioned about the country not having a direction, vision, a strategy. Do you think that resonates into that generation that perhaps hasn't seen it? I'll tell you why I put this question in. The other day I saw this video, and it said that, don't really want to get too political, but they said that if UK was to go to war, the soldiers that they would need were generally between 18 and 24, and that particular generation hasn't really seen a great country to fight for, a good cause to fight for. And I tend to take these sort of videos with a pinch of salt, really. But I thought, actually, that's actually quite true, because when it came across, it was quite true. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that. But it was almost like they've been through all this stuff, like the 2008 crash, and then COVID, and then all this stuff going on, the tech and the whole thing, lack of connection, let's just say. And I just wondered what you kind of thought of all of that.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I grew up post Second World War, and I had grandparents, grandfathers that fought in the war,
Mm,
both wars actually, first and second. And so I was immersed in the British Empire thing. When did my geography lessons, the world was pink because those were the it was the British
mm,
Empire. The sun never set on the British Empire. So I grew up with a very strong feeling and sense of being British and being patriotic. But you have to remember the Second World War was over 80 years ago now. And that was my grandparents and my parents, and they're all dead now. I am of a generation that's coming through. I'm one of the last generations
yeah.
coming through. And so the sense has changed. Do I get a sense that they would fight for Britain if suddenly there was a war? I mean, heavens forbid, we don't want one, but all the omens are looking like there's probably going to be some sort of conflict. Don't know. It's almost like cometh the hour, cometh the person. I actually changed that, didn't I? I think it's a great unknown. I think if there were troops rolling down the street to conquer us and invade us, I think there would be a fight against it. I think there would be a resistance.
Perhaps they're coming together.
Yeah, I mean, I've finished Churchill's biography a couple of months ago, and Churchill's greatness was rallying people behind the cause, giving them hope. And it was always about bigging up how good we are and how we are going to beat and conquer the problems that we've got. We don't have any Churchillian politicians right now, but then we don't have that same crisis going on right now. So it's an unknown, really. We're in a period of, well, it's been stable
Mm,
militarily for 80 years, which is why the defense cuts have gone through, because people are saying, well, why do we need them? I would imagine if that conflict did happen, somebody would come to the forefront and rally.
mm,
But you would hope that the leaders that we have would find a way of heading it off in the first place through diplomacy. Yeah, it's the big unknown, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and it's almost like if you're forced into that corner, then perhaps, like you say, it would become a bit of a real unity of some kind, and perhaps like a coming together, and perhaps I don't know, reset or
Well,
think,
crises do bring about unity.
mm,
If you think about COVID, which was the last big
yes,
crisis we had,
yeah,
there was certainly a sense that we're all in this other cave for all the shenanigans that were going on and the rules that were imposed. But there was a sense that we're together, we're in this, we need to rally. They got the vaccine through, and the vaccine changed things. But again, there was this huge effort behind to actually find a way through that. Um, okay, I mean, it decimated the economy, gave China another 5 years
yeah.
um, on the world stage. Will they learn? Will it be any better next time? We would hope so. I don't know. A crisis does bring people together. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think so. So your book, Listening, Laughing and Learning. I'm almost over halfway now. And yeah, it really is a tale of your life, isn't it? You might as well call it like Neil's biography. Autobiography, sorry.
Well, it is autobiographical.
But what I
But
really liked about it, was that I know you call it the big book. Well, the second big book, I suppose. The first big book, isn't it? It's Bible, but yeah, the second big book. What I liked about it was the fact that you could almost read any chapter and there's also independent, but it's also connecting. Like you could pick it up. It's almost like, one of them series you can say, oh, I've not watched the first 10. It doesn't matter. You can watch any one, you'll pick it up, you'll get it's like
yeah,
individual stories,
yeah.
little mini stories and little mini lessons in each.
54 of them.
54. And that's what I really liked about it. It was almost like a story, a lesson, and then your lesson or your tip at the end. And then it's like, okay, oh, that was nice. That was pleasant. Okay, fine. Next one. And then it's so on. It's like, it's really refreshing in a sense. It didn't go on for too long. Like sometimes you read it and you're like, it was really good. And I thought it was, well thought out and written. So, yeah.
Thank you very
I
much.
want to give you my feedback on that one.
Thank you.
So, a few lessons that I've picked out of that we'd like to go through. So, in today's world, of it being mostly technology and communication, I'm quite fortunate where I've managed to pick up a few young guys working for me, and they're great guys, brilliant guys. I've got 5 of them, like 20 and under, and that I call them my next Aquamark's next generation superstars. They're brilliant guys. But one thing that I've noticed is their communication isn't quite. There's one that's really good, but the others tend to shy away. If you say to them, go and see the customer, deliver an update of what it is, they do it, but it's a bit of uncomfortable zone for them. Like
Mm.
it's not as if like you and I would, oh yeah, put me in the room and I'll chat to how many people you want me to chat to. It's not like that.
No.
In your book, you said that 65% of communication is body language. So how would you overcome it then in today's world of technology?
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, there's a what you've done is you just hit what I call a theme that's been coming up. When I was putting all together the architecture of perfect teams, going from the individual all the way through to the global, at the individual level, I thought, well, an individual has got to take responsibility. An individual has to have a vision. An individual has to develop a skill set.
Mm.
And I was at a networking do a year ago, and this young chap, young lawyer, came up to me and said, well, what advice would you give to somebody starting out? I said, I'll give you 2 pieces of advice. Number 1, learn how to speak in public. Number 2, learn how to sell. He went, really? And I said, yeah. If you learn how to speak in public and present yourself, and you learn how to facilitate a conversation that brings you business in, you'll make partner real quick. He went, okay, thanks. And I was talking to somebody 2 months ago, and he said, Neil, every business owner I'm talking to right now says they're struggling with one thing. The young people that are coming through are stuck on their screens, don't have the ability to go out and build relationships and network. They don't have the ability to present and speak. He said, have you got a course for that? I said, well, yeah, I do actually. He said, well, we need it. So what I've done is, in actual fact, talk about timely, Brad. I've actually booked a hotel room in Wimbledon.
All right, okay.
1 night a week for 8 weeks, starting in September. And I'm actually going to put a course on based around the Freedom Seminar, showing young professionals how they can speak in public, how they can present, how they can talk, how they can network, how they can actually be the professionals that businesses are crying out for.
Mm.
And everybody I'm talking to, in fact, I gave some leaflets out at a networking thing last week, and a chap got straight back on and said, I was having dinner at the weekend with my daughter, her boyfriend, they're both 23, and my nephew, 30, and said, Neil, what you're talking about is totally relevant. They totally got it. Young people are crying out for this. Now, I got going because I learned how to speak in public,
Mm.
and I paid for myself to do the course nearly 40 years ago,
That was at Dale
the
Carnegie.
Dale
Yeah,
Carnegie
that's
course.
right.
And basically, the world needs a mini Dale Carnegie course right now. like basically a demi-dale.
Mm.
Well, I'm doing it.
Is that the
One evening a
slogan?
week for 8 weeks, and I'm gonna teach people how to do this because it's I mean, I dropped in a business in Wimbledon Village 2 weeks ago, and I was handing some leaflets out, and she looked at it and she said, "Oh, my son could do with that." She said, "We just come back." Actually, she said, "We just come back from Dubai. We're having dinner with some friends, and my kids are there, and our friends' kids are there." They were messaging each other across the table.
Oh dear.
They're stuck on their screens. The fact of the matter is, with technology, it's fantastic, but you've got to put it aside if you want to build relationships.
Mm.
You do not build relationships through screens. They facilitate things, but you don't because it's that face to face. I mean, I've got a mantra in my book about selling. See 3 people a day, eyeball to eyeball, belly to belly,
Mm.
and you'll build relationships and you'll get business. It doesn't happen. Screens facilitate, but the real relationships come from being face to face with people.
Yeah, that's very true because I've built obviously my company's basically on that exact same thing, meeting people as you say. And there's a couple of people I know that I had dinner with last night, and one of them's extremely successful. I think about 90 commercial properties, sold business for like 40, 50 million, very successful. And he still believes that the best marketing is giving something branded of your company face to face in person, not an email follow up. It's actually going to site, delivering it at the end of the job. How was everything? Here you go. Here's a gift from us.
Mm,
And that's just like you say, face to face, belly
yeah.
to belly,
Yeah, I
six
mean,
pack to six pack.
I used to say, when I was selling commercially years ago, I used to go out to businesses because I had to call on consulting engineers and hospital administrators. And I used to give them a little glass with a top, like a little vase, clear vase with the company's name on it, York. And I used to fill it with jelly beans. And every month I'd go through and I'd top it up with new jelly beans.
Mm, it's brilliant.
And it was just a way of keeping you front and center of the
Yeah,
clients because otherwise they forgot you.
that's right.
Yeah, and these are big, major engineering companies, big, major hospitals.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I've forgotten about that. It's not actually in the book. I'd forgotten that.
Is it not?
No, but that ties in with your branding.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, so there's another thing on there as well that I thought would be quite good to get your thoughts on is mirroring. So when someone gives their opinion of you in your book, you wrote that perhaps in many cases, most cases, they're actually mirroring how they actually feel about themselves. So basically, kind of don't really listen too much to them.
Yeah.
Wanted to kind of dig deeper into that one because I tell you, for one, if I can give you a bit of context to that, and I'll tell you why that stuck out for me, it's because nowadays people want to make something of themselves, but they're far too often worried about what other people will think. And I think the ones that really make something of themselves are the ones that tend to not get too bogged down with what other people think, because perhaps they've understood your version of mirroring. Like you think, well, I've got my way. I know the journey I'm on. I know where I'm heading, regardless of what anyone else thinks or says to me, because I know why I'm doing it and what I need to do, and I'm going to deflect what everyone
Yeah.
says. So I thought that'd be quite a good thing to bring up.
It's it's tricky. It's one of those things that not a lot of people get. Um, thing is, if somebody criticizes you, they're pointing the finger at you, aren't they? And there's that old adage, you point the finger and you got three pointing back.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, biblically, before you cast stones, look at the speck in your own, look at the plank, there's a speck, look at the plank in your own eye, that sort of
yeah.
stuff. A lot of criticism comes from people is them actually talking about their own, shite,
Mm,
basically. And the interesting is, once you cotton on to that, at the moment people start criticizing you, they're really talking about themselves, you start laughing. You
mm,
turn around, oh my God, have you Have you any idea what you've just said about yourself? Because it's easier to criticize than it is to look internally. And I mean, cynics and skeptics, I mean, I'm sorry, but I go through life laughing at people and what they're saying about themselves and how they are coming across. Because at the end of the day, so what? Do your own thing, go your own way, be your own person. And it's actually very freeing once you do that.
Mm.
There's a story in the book where I'm sitting down having a coffee with a guy, probably one of the most humble men I ever knew, a guy called Fred. And somebody walked in the room, and Fred said, "Oh, I don't like him." I looked at Fred because I'd never heard Fred criticize anybody. And quick as a whip, he turned around and said, "Oh, I better get to know them better."
Oh, that's a good punchline. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Oh, I don't like it. Oh, and what it is I've met face to face and sat down with over 7,000 people. And I can honestly say there are only three. It used to be two. There are only three I don't particularly want to sit down with again.
Mm.
But even then, if I take Fred's viewpoint, it wasn't them on that. It was just something that happened and they were just behaving that way that day. Now, do I believe that there is pure evil and there are some people that, oh, totally, oh, no. Yeah, possibly, possibly. But fact of the matter is, humans are social. And when you get to see their eyeballs and you get to break bread with them and you get to talk to them and you find out what their aspirations are and their dreams and the difficulties they've overcome, everybody's a story
Mm.
and infinitely entertaining and educational. So I just like to hold a space that if you come in and you start stabbing me, I'm probably going to do something about it.
Mm.
But what would have
You wouldn't want to sit down and have a
but
chat.
what would have precipitated that?
Yeah, yeah, that's
What
it.
would have what was the cause? So I give people the leeway until they prove otherwise.
Mm.
An engineer I sat down with in St. Louis years ago, cross me once, shame on you. Cross me twice, shame on me. So I like to give people a lot of leeway, but I am listening to what, as if they are throwing it out there, I have a firm belief they're actually talking about themselves
Mm.
because they couldn't see it unless it was in them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, of course. So it's
Yeah.
coming some a bit of a source, isn't it? Really, so to
Yeah.
speak.
So yeah, they start spouting and lashing out. It's something within them. There's the seeds within them.
Yeah, yeah, that is really good. And I think with that, the mirroring effect, as you say, it's I do think there's some sort of source within that they kind of, it's almost like they want to get it off their chest and get it out, and
Yeah.
really they're speaking to themselves, so to speak. But of course, they're
And
directing it
it's
at
so
that
easy to.
thing.
I mean, we can look at things. We can look at people, and we got some leaders in the world right now that people take pot shots at, and they criticize, and they lambast. They don't actually know them.
Mm. Do you know? It's funny you mentioned about that. A person that perhaps on the surface you probably wouldn't necessarily sit down with, but that's so when I first started this podcast, I was like, I'll do it to help others and give some information. And 'cause I was getting asked questions, I was like, and I got advice to start the podcast and said, look, just send them when they ask you a question, send them an episode that answers that question and more. And that's still your way of helping them. So, okay, great. And it started off, and it still continues to be like that. So it's great. But now it's become a bit of a personal hobby of mine now because I just love sitting down with people and understanding their story, as you say,
Hmm.
because everybody's got a story. And that's what I really like about it. Now I'm like, I just love doing it now. It's brilliant. And there's a guy at gym that I go to. So my wife and I on a Friday, we're quite fortunate enough that we go there for the morning, we do a workout and then we have lunch and then we spend a couple of hours in the spa if we haven't got anything else going on. And there was one particular guy, he's not been around for a while, but he used to come every Friday. And it was a very interesting guy. He used to speak a lot to himself. He used to do some random movements. And it was an odd, you'd call him an odd character. and he would, every time he saw me, and I got to know him, and my friends and my wife thought I was crazy. Like, no, stay clear of him. Don't go anywhere near him. I was like, I want to go and have lunch with this guy. He's just fascinates me. I've got to understand
What's the
what's
story?
the story with this guy. Anyway, so I got speaking to him, and then we become, like, when you pass each other in the street, in the hallway and stuff. I spoke to him quite a lot. His name's Michael, and he always used to say to me, "What's the 3 things you're grateful for today?" And I was like, "Oh, and it would be like, not how long. What's the 3 things you're grateful for today?" And it would be fascinating, and I'm like, I love it. And then he'd carry on walking once I've answered him, and I'd be stood there in the hallway going, "Just love that." It was brilliant. But instead of saying hi, how are you? It was like, "Oh, hi. What's the 3 things you're grateful for
Yeah,
today?"
fantastic.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
But apparently it turned out that he was some scientist, some absolute like genius guy, and he just went into himself, his own brain, and just had these crazy
Still
thoughts.
coming up and talking through the next theory.
Yeah, crazy. But brilliant, lovely guy. Lovely guy. I just loved speaking to him.
So that's an interesting question. You should ask me what are the 3 things. So,
Yeah. Oh, what are the 3 things you're grateful
well,
for today, Neil?
my health, that I'm here.
Yes.
And so I get up every morning and go for a walk, and it was absolutely glorious this morning.
Mm.
And then the thoughts that come to me when I'm on my walk, there's always a thought that comes to me. And I'd have to say my wife.
Lovely.
So those would be the 3 things I'm grateful for today.
Brilliant. Lovely. There was another thing. What was I going to ask you? There was something else. Can't remember now. There's something in your story, but okay. We'll come back to that. So another thing that you mentioned was the respect chart.
Yeah.
Talk us through how you came up with that.
Yeah. So there's a table in the book, isn't there, with some
Mm,
people's initials.
that's right.
Um,
Initials across the top.
yeah.
And then what were the
And
areas you'd marked them on?
I think there are N, R, T, and NR from what I recollect. It's a long time.
Those are the initials of the people that you're
Yeah.
referring to. Yeah, that's right.
And what it was a long time ago, it was a training exercise. Somebody said to me, write down the initials of 3 people you respect, and then write down what are the qualities that those people have. What is it about those people? Why do you respect them? And then they said at the end, in actual fact, what it is those are things you're looking for in yourself. I went, wow. And I'd written down these 3 people. One was a guy called Ralph Nichols. One was a guy called Nick Rickson. Another guy was a guy called Rob Thomas. And there's a story of Rob Thomas is a chap I went to school with
Mm.
who had a vision to be a millionaire when we were at school when we were 14. The other guy's a guy, Nick Rickson, that I met when I started selling Dale Carnegie in Croydon nearly 40 years ago. And Ralph Nichols was a Dale Carnegie sponsor who had Detroit as his area. And he had the car companies wrapped up. So most Dale Carnegie sponsors would do maybe 1,000 contracts a year, and Ralph Nichols did 10 to 15,000 a year.
Wow.
And what it is this, and so what it is that's the actual exercise I went through, and every one of them, one of the attributes they had was their energy. Every one of them, it was their energy. And if there's one thing I've had to monitor in my own life, it's to keep my energy going.
Mm.
I looked at these people and they seemed to naturally have the energy. They were also very good salespeople. And I can't remember what was the other quality. They certainly had the ability to make money.
Mm. Yeah,
And so
very
if I think
successful.
about their salesmanship, their energy levels, and their ability to make money, and I look at my own life, the 3 things I've always wanted more than anything is the energy, the ability to make money, and the salesmanship.
Yeah.
And so I've learnt how to sell. I've learnt how to monitor my own energy and feed my own energy. And money to me is just an outcome of doing something that becomes successful.
Mm.
So and that whole exercise, that respect exercise, goes right back to source when I got going in the world of personal development.
Mm.
So it was kind of like one of those crossover points. Is that making sense?
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I wanted to bring it up because in and I'm only talking about the people that have perhaps reached out to me and people that I know as well. But I think a lot of them are looking for some sort of direction, and there's so many different influencers out there. Let's just go along with the general narrative. The influencers, and some of them are good, some of them are not so good, and some of them that are not so good, or perhaps don't lead in the best way, have got a lot of followers, and it's like a lot of influence. And I'm just wondering if perhaps if those people perhaps listening or saw this video was to say, okay, I'm going to do a respect chart and list down who they respect, which may or may not be one of these influencers that perhaps not really influence in the best way. Then they say why they respect them. I'm just wondering if they might hit a
Uh-huh.
bit of a stumbling block.
Yeah, because what you've done there is, if you think about it, the people I wrote down were people I knew.
Mm.
If people are looking at film stars and celebrities and respect them, you don't actually know them.
Well, in today's world, I think you probably know them a little bit more
Well, no,
because of the social
it's
media. It's what they put on social media. Let's
yeah.
just say,
So my caveat to the exercise is pick people you actually know,
right?
you actually have eyeballed or broken
Mm,
bread with, walked in the countryside with, been to school with, worked with. Pick people you actually know,
mm,
warts and all. Because there's an awful lot of wannabe, and it's what I call the curse of the comparison game. I can look at celebrities, I can look at successful people through the media and go, "Why haven't I got that?" Well, you're on a hide into nothing.
yeah, definitely.
Um, and there's noise. I mean, I'm part and parcel of my own personal positioning, which I don't talk about a lot. I'm not a noisy personal position person. And some people have been telling me I'm making a big mistake not going down that. But to me, that personal branding, that personal positioning is a bandwagon and it's gone.
Mm,
I think there's another way of doing things. Um, an awful lot of noise and hype. It's back to what I call the noisy
mm,
nonsense at the fringes. If you want to buy into that, carry on,
mm,
please. I'm not. What it is beware the savior. A lot of people are looking for the magic pill, the silver bullet that's going to solve all their ills, and they're not looking internally to say what they can. And again, that's the abdication of responsibility. If you're expecting the solution to come from external, you're behind the cart. You're not taking charge. So my whole philosophy is about the individual looking in the mirror, taking stock, looking internally, and saying, "What can I do for myself?"
mm,
Not what somebody else is going to do for me. Because the moment you say somebody else is going to solve this, oh, if only let's copy that. Don't copy, be yourself.
mm,
I mean, there are sayings, multitude of sayings. Don't try and be somebody else. It's already taken.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
I'm a great believer in going internal, looking at the flaws, the warts and all, and saying, what can I do to improve? What can I do to move forward? You do it all the time with your gym work
Mm,
and the way you push yourself. It's what can you do to improve?
mm.
Yeah, I mean, Sawi's just run a sub 2 hour marathon.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, I'm in. Yeah, I'm not now. I used to be a marathon runner.
Yeah,
I know how incredible that is.
yeah.
Is there any point me looking at Sawi and go, why can't I be like that? Well, there's a whole host of reasons why I can't be like that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
I'm not Kenyan. I wasn't born in the mountains, and I didn't have that.
Yeah, yeah, that's
I mean,
right,
it's
brilliant.
man. I mean,
It
it's
is.
absolutely. I mean, that is a world record. I mean, it's like Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile, the sub 2-hour marathon. Now, I had a pretty respectable time,
Mm,
but that is outstanding.
yeah.
Absolutely outstanding. That place is now taken. What's the point of beating myself up that I can't have that position anymore? Just do what you can do.
That's right.
Be the best that you can be
Mm.
in the field that you've chosen to be in.
Yeah, and that's why I think that respect chart is quite useful because it not only was it to highlight perhaps maybe um question why you were following these people, or certainly looking at those were the leaders and the beacon for you to follow, but more so for one area, but also another area. Say, okay, well, who do I respect, and what are the characteristics and the reasons as to why I respect them? And then when you start writing it down, as you know more than I do, the power of writing things down. When you start writing that down, I think it resonates all of a sudden. You're like, actually, yeah, I wouldn't mind a bit of that.
Yeah.
And those are the reasons. And then it's like young, isn't it? You keep learning another peeling, another layer, and so on. You get deeper and deeper, and all of a sudden, you know the power of writing. You keep writing things, and before you know it, you've solved a million problems just by writing it down for half an hour. It's brilliant. It's amazing. So that was why I brought that up. I thought it was
Okay.
like a really good way of perhaps in today's environment of and certainly the stuff that I get at the moment, they're like, look, I'm a bit lost. I don't know what direction I should take, that sort of thing. And I think a respect chart would probably go a long way to perhaps give you a bit of direction and certainly something to work on at least as step one. That's why I
Yeah.
mentioned it. So yeah.
There are lots of indications in the book, a lot of clues on how you can find out what you really want to do for yourself in life.
Mm.
Um,
Well, this book,
yeah,
listening, laughing, and learning.
the biggest tip really is to sit down in silence with a blank sheet of paper
Mm. Yeah.
and start writing them down. Where is it I want to get to? What do I want to do? Why am I doing it? Who do I want involved? Um, I'm a great believer in taking time out, silence, not getting. It's not about total input. It's not about looking at things, watching things, wanting things. Take the step back and be honest with self.
Mm.
Go internal. Listen to the still voice within. Um, there was somebody called Blaise Pascal, and I think he wrote this in 1652. Most people's problems stem from one thing and one thing alone. That's the inability to sit in a room on their own in silence.
And that was in 1652. No
1652.
technology, no gadgets.
How the printing press was going.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, it's so true. And I know that you walk a lot, and as do I, but not quite your miles that you do. But I find it very, very powerful just going for a walk, and after half an hour, your blood's racing and your mind is flowing, and it's absolutely amazing. It's brilliant. So yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, something drops into place between 30 and 40 minutes.
Mm, yeah.
And then you suddenly go, oh,
Mm.
never noticed that. Oh, hadn't thought of that before. Oh,
That's it.
where did that come? Which I always carry on. I've always got a notebook with
Yep,
me.
yeah, yeah. Here we go. Look,
Always got a
the
notebook
famous notebook.
and those little red
Yeah,
books.
definitely. It's brilliant. That is. So, so let's say, for instance, you've now found what you want to do, and then you really embark on that journey, and you find yourself getting a bit busy, a bit too busy, and then you've got to differentiate between which tasks should you focus on and which you shouldn't. And you talk about $10 tasks and $1,000 tasks and such. How do you? What strategy would you advise or do you use to differentiate between which you should focus on the most?
Yeah. So this there's a framework in the book called The Story of Building a Business. And you've got what I call the support tasks, the things that are going to support the business. And then you've got what I call the operational tasks, the things that are going to bring the business in. And then you've got what I call the strategic tasks, the things that are going to give you future growth. And in the past, I've used what I call the Jamie Oliver example. So Jamie Oliver's a chef. What are the support tasks? Well, buying the spuds, peeling the spuds, cleaning the kitchen, cleaning the dishes. Yeah.
Mm.
What's the operational piece? Well, cooking the meals, serving the customers, be in front of house. What are the strategic tasks? Writing a book, getting a TV program, opening more restaurants. Well, if you've got basically 2,000 working hours a year and you're spending 2,000 hours a year peeling and cleaning spuds, you're not going to do the TV program and write the book, are you?
Mm.
But if you find somebody to peel the spuds and clean the dishes for you, which frees you up to do the cooking and the creation and be front of house, you'll start making some money. If you start making money, you can open more restaurants and you can start thinking about the TV programs, which is basically 1,000 an hour time work. And so what you do, you've got to be very clear. You've only got so much time. What are you investing it in? I think the last time we talked, we had the Henry Ford quote, didn't we?
We did.
Successful people become successful in the time other people waste. Well, if you are wasting your time cleaning spuds and cleaning dishes, peeling spuds and cleaning dishes, you're not being strategic and working on the business, are you? So you've got to get very clear if you're an entrepreneur, even if you're in a position of responsibility, what's the strategic stuff that's going to take you forward and grow your business? What's the strategic stuff that's going to take this country forward?
Mm. Yeah.
Or are you bogged down in having to manage things? And it's the great difference between managing and leading. Leaders are about bang, new directions, new forage, new new ventures,
Mm.
growth. Managing is about managing what you've already got. And a lot of people don't get their heads around that. Everybody wants to become a manager. Well, you're just managing what you got. The real leader's going out there and finding something new to create. And it's the difference between that creative energy and that bureaucratic managerial energy. And if people can get their heads around there's a distinct difference between leading and growth and doing and managing and supporting,
Mm.
they will start becoming more effective.
Yeah, those are big steps, and I think if you were to able to cross that bridge or understand that and develop that craft as well, by the way, because
Mm.
like what got you from the spuds to the front of house, it's a different skill set. It's going to take you from the front of house to the TV shows and books. Because to write books, as you well know, you need experience and knowledge, and which you do self development yourself. I know you read thousands of books, so you've worked on your craft. So you've got the badges and the scars to say, yeah, I'm going to write a book, and I know what I'm talking about. I think it's understanding that's kind of what got you to here. It doesn't get you to there, but then it's understanding what
Yeah.
do I need to get to there.
You still,
Constantly asking the question.
if you're independent, you still got to answer the question, how are you going to make your living?
Mm, yeah.
So unless you've got a trust fund or you've won the lottery, there is the thing about making the living to keep you going, to keep the livelihood going,
Mm,
to fund things.
yeah. Very true.
And you know that. I mean, you've run a business, and it's the difference between an equity business and a sellout and an income model. Business owners have to make a choice at one point. Are they looking to build for the future, where there's a big payout, or are they just looking to get a good livelihood from it?
Mm,
If they're just looking to get a good livelihood from it, there's probably not going to be a lot of strategic stuff going on. It's going to be maybe one new growth area to keep it going. Because if you don't keep growing, you will go back. But if you're looking to get up the steps, add those zeros, you as a CEO, as the prime mover in the business, have got to keep on thinking, where's the growth going to come from? And that's in the book as well.
mm.
I think you might not have got to that bit.
No, that was about 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah.
At the moment. So yeah,
Yeah, I think it's in the last third.
okay. I'm
All
not
that
with
beautiful growth stuff.
you. Yeah, looking forward to it. You talked more about perfect teams in the last bit. I think I saw from the index as
Yeah,
well. So yeah,
it's started mirroring where I've got to with the intellectual property that I developed and
yes,
everything else.
looking forward to that. So we got a couple of quick fire
Ooh.
questions. So one book that you feel, other than your own, every business owner should read right now.
I'll be how to win friends and influence people.
Got to be, isn't it?
Yeah,
Certainly in today's world, even more so than ever.
yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Second one,
Go on.
Man's Search for Meaning.
Ah, that's great. That's a good book.
Yeah,
How he went all those years was just crazy, wasn't
yeah.
it? Good book. Really good. Good tips. Best advice ever given, and who gave it to you?
Learn to speak in public.
Yeah.
Well, no, it goes back to what happened at the hospital in California when I failed.
Yeah.
My boss turned around and said, Neil, you've got to learn how to speak in public.
So it was your boss that gave you
Well, he
the
told me,
advice?
he said,
Yeah.
you've got to do it. And I went away and found the courses. I said, I want to do that one. He said, well, go on then.
Mm.
So the advice there was invest in yourself because I paid for myself to do the Dale Carnegie course because in America, you pay your own way. And that is a huge difference. It's mindset again, Brad. The people that get on are the ones that invest in themselves. It's back to being independent, taking responsibility. The moment you expect it to be given to you, you're playing the victim and you're in that dependent place.
Mm.
And I'm seeing it. I'm putting this course together.
Mm.
How many people will pay for themselves to do that course? It's going to be it's going to kind of be my stock take on the state of this nation. Because 40 years when I came back to start the Dale Carnegie courses in London, there are only 5 people I ever met that paid for themselves to do it.
Mm. So that would be interesting then.
Yeah.
Mm. So if you could give young Neil a bit of advice, what would that bit of advice be?
Well, it's a double-edged sword because
I
I
think I know what you're
actually,
going to say, but go on.
well, no, because I
Interesting to
met up recently with my old professor when I did my degree all those years ago in Newcastle, and he wanted me to stay and do a PhD. And I really wanted to do a PhD because sitting in here is actually a little bit of a frustrated academic.
Okay.
So if I was to give myself the advice, I would probably take a different path.
Okay. Right.
I'd have probably done maths and philosophy instead of the engineering and the way that I've gone.
Mm.
My life would be completely different. I'd be in a completely different place. But that's sliding door stuff, isn't it? So what advice would I give myself? Save money.
Okay. Okay.
It would be a money thing. It would be all the money I've made. It would be the old riches of Babylon.
Mm.
Save 10%, save 10%, save 10%.
Yeah. I'll come back to that. Why I thought you was going to give an answer. But I think that would be mine too. Would I had some great opportunities when I was 21, 22. I started business early, and I thought I hit the ground running. I thought I had it made. So when I got these advice given to me, opportunities come, I just passed them by as if it was nothing. And it's only now I'm thinking, oh I'd be very, very well off if I
But
just took a few of those bits
but
of
there is a
advice.
caveat to this
Yeah,
because
that drive.
I'm an age where all my contemporaries are retired,
Mm,
and most of them have got nice pensions, mortgage free, traveling in their camper vans through the outer or the inner Hebrides, going on road trips in their Porsches. And I look at it and I go, well, I could be there, but you know what? I've had a fantastic life,
Yeah.
and I'm still going to have a fantastic life,
Mhm.
and I've lived every day. So there is this bit of me that goes, yes, I should have done it. But a bit of me goes, so what?
Mm.
There's still opportunity.
Well, like that university, um, uh, what was his professor that you met?
Yeah.
Had you probably itched that itch that you had about that PhD, would you have then not wanting or been as hungry to read books and self-develop and self-teach? Maybe that's kind of led you down that path because you would have thought, well, I do know that itch has been itched, it's done now. Now let me focus on me using that.
Life would have been more normal.
What's normal? What's normal, Neil?
I've I mean I've said it several times. I haven't had a normal life.
You've had an extraordinary life.
I have had an extraordinarily fruitful, exciting, adventurous life. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I mean, there's so many stories that aren't in that book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So part two, is that a drop for a part two?
We'll see. We'll see.
And final question, what does Neil Tusson want to be remembered for?
Tucson.
Tucson, beg your
Tucson.
pardon. Tucson. What does Neil Tucson want to be remembered for?
My legacy.
Your legacy. What's
Oh,
your legacy?
I've actually got that written down.
Have you really?
Yeah. Uh,
Can we read it out?
yeah.
Look at this. Neil Tucson was a British thinker, writer, and educator who devoted his life to restoring the ideas of clarity, responsibility, and independent character in public life. Through the Freedom Cycle, the Freedom Seminar, and the founding of a school of thought, the Institute of Freedom, he challenged what he saw as a growing culture of dependency and confusion. His work encouraged individuals and leaders alike to think clearly, act responsibly, and contribute meaningfully to society. The Institute of Freedom, overlooking the coast at Portchester, stands as the home of that work. Brilliant.
There you go.
Why Portchester?
That's where I grew up.
Excellent.
It's my favourite place. So just outside Portsmouth, across the harbour. There's a little. It was a village called Portchester.
Mhm.
It's got the most beautiful castle in the world, Roman walls, Saxon shore fort, Norman keep, best preserved Roman walls in Britain, and it's my place. And there's a house down there that looks over the sea, with about 3 acres in front of it, which would be the perfect place to build the institute.
Some legacy. Brilliant. Well, Neil, I really appreciate you coming back on. It's been a great conversation and one that I've wanted to have for a while. And I've really enjoyed reading your book. It's been amazing. You mentioned Navy days in there,
Yeah,
Portsmouth, and that took me back because when I was younger, my granddad, he served in the Navy, and I've got his medals still in my home, and he's got loads of medals. He gave them all to me when he passed, and and it was brilliant, and I love it, and I love the history because his face would light up whenever he'd walk in there because he'd tell me the history of the ships and the whole. This is when HMS Victory was there,
yeah,
and
that's still there.
it's still
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Okay, okay. Because I thought, oh, and HMS Belfast was also there at the time when I went.
Okay.
So, and it's yeah, it was amazing. So to read that and take me back certainly to a few years of my childhood was really nice. And as I said, I love the way you wrote it, and it's a really good book. I thoroughly recommend it. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on again, Neil. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. I've been thrilled.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Brad.